A very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are in good. Today is 8th February 2020. Day is Saturday, and because it's Saturday, we have only 4 articles on our table. The first one that we are going to see is the high cost of raising trade walls. This one is about protectionism, it's about free trade agreements, and this article is also talking about the importance of regional agreements. We are going to analyze this one in detail, but before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses. Our pen drive and tablet courses are designed by the best faculties of our nation. And with the help of our pen drive and tablet courses, there are so many students out there. They have cracked various different competitive exams. You can purchase them from StudyIQ.com. In case if you have any question, queries, doubts regarding it, you can give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. To download the PDF of today's lecture, you have two sources. First is my FB page, and the second one is my Telegram channel. You can follow me on FB, you can join my Telegram channel. Dear friends, please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, India's international trade posture appeared to turn protectionist in past week with two indicators. There are two indicators through which it looks like India is, getting more and more in a protectionist posture when it comes to international trade. The first one is India declined to attend this Bali meeting that took place in Indonesia, and this meeting was about RCEP, that is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Now, you have to be aware about this thing that last November 2019, India decided that we are not going to be part of this free trade agreement of this total 16 countries, including India. But now India is not part of this thing, so you have 15 countries in this RCEP. Few months ago, Japan was, quite into this thing. Japan was trying to convince India. Japan was basically trying to persuade us to join RCEP. Japan even offered that if India wants, then Japan can create an environment and new discussions can take place. And India was specially invited by this members to join this Bali, Indonesia meeting on 3rd and 4th of February. It was told to us that our issues regarding or our concerns regarding RCEP will be discussed, and we'll try to find a solution so that India can become part of this RCEP. Now, let me throw some more light on this RCEP. You have 10 ASEAN countries on your screen. So this is the full form of ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. You have 10 countries in ASEAN. So these are the countries here: Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Laos, Vietnam, Philippines, and Brunei Darussalam. So these are 10 nations of ASEAN, and then you have their 5 trading partners. Now, of course, India is not part of RCEP, so you have Japan, China, Korea, of course, South Korea. Then you have Australia and New Zealand. Now, one of the main reasons why India decided not to join RCEP is our huge trade deficit with these nations here. A total of somewhere around $103 billion trade deficit we have with this 15 nations. And after this 103, we have a $57 billion trade deficit with just one country, and that is China. $57 billion with China alone. So already we are buying more things from these nations rather than selling it to them. Now, if we go ahead with a free trade agreement, what will happen is we will see a tsunami of Chinese products in our country. This can destroy our MSMEs. It can destroy our dairy industry, our farmers. Like you have countries like Australia and New Zealand. They are very good in dairy production. So imagine if milk is coming or milk products are coming from these two countries without any barrier into our nation, then it's going to destroy our farmers. So keeping our farmers, our small industries, our MSMEs in mind, India, finally, our country decided that we are not going to be part of this RCEP. So these were the reasons, and this meeting as well, India said that we are not going to attend this meeting. So this is one indicator as per this article. The second one is the budget speech. In budget, Nirmala Sitharaman ji told that it has been observed that imports under free trade agreements are on the rise. Undue claims of FTA benefits have posed a threat to domestic industry. Such imports require stringent checks. And FM also said that all free trade agreements will now be aligned to our conscious direction of India's policy. So now we are going to, have new agreements. We are going to, I would say, upgrade these agreements if we have with any countries or any groups. So, as we have already talked about this Chinese goods flooding Indian market. So this was about RCEP. Now, since 2011, we are having a chat with Australia regarding this Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, CECA. So things are going on between these two nations from 2011, and things have not concluded because of one important reason, and that is again RCEP. Because Australia is part of RCEP and India was going to be part of RCEP, earlier on it was decided that both nations will conclude, or the deadline was set by both prime ministers of respective countries, Mr. Modi and then Prime Minister, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, decided that by 2015 they will complete CCEA. But at the same time, simultaneously, things were going on with RCEP. So if India and Australia are going to join, or if they are going to be part of RCEP, then you don't need you can say a separate CECA, isn't it? But now India is not part of this RCEP. That is very clear. So it looks like things will move ahead. But again, we are going to see a bit of problem with the new free trade agreement or this CECA with Australia. Now, what is one most important thing that will create problem? Just hold this thought or this point for time being. I will skip it. We will talk about other countries and then I will explain you. It's basically about services. Just keep this word services in your mind for now. With United Kingdom, FTA, free trade agreement with UK. Now, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is going to be in our country in a few months' time. And India and UK, they have also been having a chat about this free trade agreement for a very long period of time now. But recently, a few days ago, we were talking about this Brexit, remember? So post-Brexit, it will take nearly 1 year, roughly speaking, 1 year's time for UK and EU to complete this divorce process. So only after completion of this divorce, we can see UK signing new agreements with other nations. Of course, discussions will take place, but formal agreements and other things will take a bit of time. If you talk about EU, then again, same thing. Our Prime Minister is going to visit Brussels for this EU-India summit next month in March 2020. And for a very long period of time, these two parties, when I said these two parties, I'm talking about EU as well as India. We have been talking about this bilateral trade and investment agreement. And again, I don't see a breakthrough here because of this Brexit. European Union will have to sign new agreements with other countries. So again, it will take a bit of time. But this is not the only reason. Again, services plays a very important role with UK, with European Union, with Australia, with USA as well. And back in 2015, India came out with this bilateral investment treaty model, and it basically scrapped all bilateral investment treaties with 57 countries, including European Union nations. So our plan was back in 2015 that we will start a new investment treaty. We will sign new bilateral investment treaties with various different countries. But so far, only 3 countries are on board: Kyrgyzstan, Belarus, and Brazil. Mr. Trump is going to be here at the end of this month, and free trade agreement discussions are going on between India and USA as well. And I don't think so that this Mr. Trump's visit will see a big thing, because we won't be able to see big agreements, because roughly speaking, you can say that around 15-20% of deal is agreed by both nations. There are so many issues that are still pending. So we are going step by step with USA, and USA is also going step by step with us. So there are bigger issues like H1B visa is there, then Harley Davidson motorcycle issue is there. We want to sell more aluminium and steel. Then we were been removed from this GSP, generalized system of preference. So there are a few points on which both nations have agreed, and there are so many other points that are pending at present. So we need to sort all of them out. So I don't think so end of February we will see big agreements between these two nations. As far as World Trade Organization is concerned, it is very weak at present. There is no appellate. This dispute mechanism is not working because of delay in appointment of judges, and there's two big economies, USA and China. Things are a bit okay at present, but from last roughly speaking 18-19 months they were in state of trade war, and WTO was not able to do anything because technically speaking this sort of things are illegal, but then as well it was going on. If you check it from WTO point of view, then these things are not right, arbitrary, but then as well these things were going on. Now, we were talking about this free trade agreement. I told you about RCEP, that we have this trade deficit with them. But when it comes to other nations, like our neighborhood, we have trade surplus, right? With Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka. Even with Pakistan, when we used to do trade with them, since 2019, all trade are suspended. But out of 2.55 billion total trade, 2.06 billion worth of items were exported by India. And at present, if we look at global trade scenario, then we find that there is a rise of regional agreements, and this is the most important point about this article. That what we see nowadays is you find NAFTA, that is North America Free Trade Agreement between these countries. Then you have with this South American countries, they have their own MERCOSUR. It's in Spanish, right? These initials are for Spanish word, but it's basically about a common market of Southern or South American countries. With African continent, they have this AFCFTA, that is Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Even in Asia, you have this Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. RCEP is, or RCEP is a new thing here. So today, this big, if you go ahead with a free trade agreement with other nations, it's okay, or other groups, it's all right. I'm not saying that we should not do it at all, but there is a rise of regional agreements, and India should focus on regional agreement, like we have SAARC. Now, I have a question for you. Can you give me the name of the countries that are part of SAARC group, right? SAARC stands for South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. But SAARC group is nearly dead because of this two enemies, Pakistan and India, are part of this SAARC, and because of issues going on between these two nations, this whole group is not working properly. Now, I was talking about this. So first thing, let me finish with SAARC first. So we need to focus on SAARC. Now, why we need to focus on, I'll come back to you in a minute. Now, let's talk about this services. I told you that the services is a word that you need to hold. Now, all these countries, right? When we say free trade agreement, remember, free trade agreement, it's not just about products or goods. Right? It's not just about merchandise, it's also about services. And India is a country, our strength is not in manufacturing, but we are very powerful in service sector. So we want to sell our services to all these countries, and not just our services, we also want mobility for our people, that Indians should be allowed with a very, you can say, as little as possible visa and other formalities. They should be able to work in Australia, they should be able to work in UK, they should be able to work in various different European Union countries, right, in USA and other countries. So as you can imagine, these developed nations, they will not allow that thing. That means if you want to go to UK, USA, European nations, then yes, you can, but that will not be covered under this free trade agreement. You can apply if you are qualified. If you are highly skilled, then they will allow you, or else if you are a student, they will allow you, or if you are a tourist, then you can go there for a few days. But as far as business and earning and doing job and selling services is concerned, they won't allow you that easily. You have to apply separately. So this is going to be the biggest problem. These countries will not go ahead with free trade agreement with India, right? We have all these benefits of having good people. When I say good people, I mean to say skilled people are available in our country, but free opening their gates for Indians like this way, I don't think so these countries will agree with it. And one more region you have here, that is Eurasian Economic Union, that is between Russia and European countries, not EU but Eurasian countries, right? So keep this thing in mind. So anyway, we have this demographic might, but they will not allow. So service is going to be a trouble. Service, this point can create sort of hurdles or delays when it comes to new free trade agreement. And I was talking about this SARC. So judging by what's going on in different parts of the world, it's important for India to focus on SARC or our neighborhood. Once we are successful in our neighborhood, then yes, we can go ahead and explore other destinations. But first of all, this local region, we need to exploit this thing. And if Pakistan and India, right, if these two countries keep their differences on one side, and if this whole SARC nation can convert into a free trade agreement, let's say, then you won't believe the benefits. There are so many things. Like, I'll give you one example and then we'll wrap it up. Pakistan as well is just like India, having tea or drinking tea is something that is part of Pakistan's culture. Now you know that India is India produces Assam and other portion, Darjeeling, we produce good quality of tea, but Pakistan has to import tea from from some African countries, right? It can easily buy it from India, but because of this animosity between these two countries, we are not trading with each other. There are other things as well we can buy from Pakistan, but we are not buying it. So it's just one example. If just imagine if there was a free trade agreement between these countries, and there are experts who say that if these SARC nations, if they cooperate just like European countries cooperate with each other, then this area can become more prosperous than Europe. That's everything, dear friends. Let's move on to next item now. It's about extended folly. It's about Jammu and Kashmir. It's about recent words or this address of Prime Minister in the Parliament. But before that, let me tell you about this Trump moves on. This one is about the impeachment process. It's about USA's politics. If you are not aware about this topic at all, then you can spend some time and do a research. It will not take more than 10-15 minutes for you, but you don't have to go through this article. If you have extra time, yes, I would reckon go through it just once. That's it. You don't need to make notes and other things from this one. It's not that important. It's about politics that's going on in USA. But more important is this one, extended folly. Now, senior leaders, right? You have this senior leaders of Jammu and Kashmir. They are behind prison, or not prison. Basically, they are detention. Like you have Mehbooba Mufti, you have Omar Abdullah. They are kept under detention under this Public Safety Act. Now, 83-year-old Farooq Abdullah, another former CM, was also under detention. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked about Jammu and Kashmir in Parliament last Thursday. And, he talked about dilution of Article 370, the necessity to dilute this article, and it was temporary in nature and other things. Now, Supreme Court is also going through it. So let's not just talk about it for now. Means, of course, I'm going to give you a brief, but we have to wait and watch for the stand of Supreme Court as well. And he talked about that now Jammu and Kashmir is fully integrated with the rest of the country, and that's a good thing. What we need now is we need to create this political environment where various different stakeholders of Jammu and Kashmir They can come together, they can have a discussion with each other, and the future is going to be means if all these leaders, if all these stakeholders, if they come on board, and if we start this discussion process, then yes, the future of Jammu and Kashmir is going to be bright. It is union territory now. The responsibility is totally on central government. But I remember the words of Mr. Modi. He said that the plan of Government of India is not to keep Jammu and Kashmir as a UT forever. It's going to be a state in future, but for that, it will take a bit of time. And this is the right time that we start this process, at least of discussion, so that in next, let's say 5 years or 10 years maybe, we can create an environment where we can again, this union territory can be converted into a state where people can elect their own CMs and MLAs and things like that, So the Prime Minister defended the indefinite and arbitrary detention of people as essential and accused the former CMs of making unacceptable statements. And this is also right. I have heard Mehbooba Mufti using some very dangerous words, and this is something that is, of course, not acceptable. It means it's not just about ruling party and opposition, but see, at the end of the day, we all are Indians, and if we are fighting with each other, then the country that is going to be happy about it is, of course, Pakistan, isn't it? So, if our leaders, like let's say Mehbooba Mufti, right, the words she was using was, not that I would say, I would rather say that those words are not right. A leader of, this famous leader, they should not use this sort of words. They should be very careful, because their words, people will follow. That's why they are leaders, isn't it? So this is one thing. Now, Supreme Court has already said this restriction or ban of internet is not, justified, and Supreme Court has said that this is, part of freedom of speech and expression. So services have been partially restored. Supreme Court has also criticized the frequent and widespread use of Section 144. So government as well has been, bit very hard. But still, I would say this the changes to Article 370 and the manner in which they were affected are under consideration of Supreme Court. So we have to wait and watch what Supreme Court will do with this thing, with this Article 370. But as far as I know, Government of India has been very technical in removing this Article 370. So I don't think so that Supreme Court will, again reject this government's stand, as far as I know. But now let's again wait and watch. But end of the day, we have to remember this thing, that long-term future of Jammu and Kashmir is making it back, or converting it into a state like it used to be earlier on. Of course, it can be much smaller in size, but just like this union territory it is, and POK portion can be included in this state, or it can be kept under Ladakh, whatever is okay at that point of time. But we have to understand that all stakeholders should be on board. Without discussion, without proper discussion, things will not move ahead. We don't want to see this heaven on earth be in this trouble forever. Moving on to next item, upholding the fairness of the sentencing process. Now, this article is, there are a few viewpoints in this article that we will talk about, right? And at the end of the article, we will talk about some extra points as well. So, Mukesh, Pawan, Akshay, and Vinay, these are the 4 convicts of this Nirbhaya case. And they have been given 7 days to exercise all their legal rights, after which they will all in probability be hanged to death for the rape and murder of a young woman in Delhi in December 2012, that is Nirbhaya. The trial court has also refused to permit their execution before the exhaustion of their legal remedies in light of Delhi High Court's order. Now, public sentiments are very high. If you ask your friends, family members, if you ask yourself, then my opinion is yes, they should be given death penalty. But in this article is talking about this Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab 1980 case, in which Supreme Court's constitutional bench laid down the sentencing framework in capital cases. Like if you are giving death penalty, then the court should consider aggravating and mitigating circumstances of the offense and the offender when deciding the question of punishment. Now, courts have gone through it, as far as I know, but here this article is saying that because public demand is hanging the rapist, if you ask, most of the people will say that we need to hang this rapist because the brutality of crime, and the trial court commented upon the extreme mental perversion of the accused, which was not worthy of human condonation, and also reiterated elements of the crime to highlight their beastly behavior. A plain reading of the sentencing orders make it very clear that the public clamor for hanging the rapist made its way into judicial decision making. That's what this article writers are saying, that public clamor, public demand is one of the main reasons why judges have opted for death penalty. Now, we can have we all have different opinions, isn't it? But if we go through the situation or if we analyze the situation of the parents of Nirbhaya, then it won't be that easy for us to say that it was because of public clamor. Just imagine if this sort of crime taking place, God forbid, but if this sort of crime taking place with someone whom we know, our loved ones, then will we argue about this thing that public clamor was main reason and this is not rarest of the rare? Indeed, it is rarest of the rare. The brutality conducted by this culprits, and the signal means from 2012 till now this thing is going on. Of course, what happened with Nirbhaya is very, very sad and disturbing, and we don't want to see this sort of crimes ever, in future, not just in our country, but it should not take place with any human being on this planet or any other place. But from 2012 till now, imagine the situation of the parents of Nirbhaya, the family members of Nirbhaya. And I'll give you one more example. There are so many students preparing for civil services in different parts of our country. Now, I'm not sure how strong this thing is even today, but even there are people who strongly believe that if you want to prepare for UPSC, then you have to go to Delhi, you have to live there, and you have to join some classes over there, and then only you can crack UPSC. I'm sure you might have heard about this thing. Now, there are so many parents and there are so many girls, right? They are very sincere about preparing for UPSC, but they cannot, their parents will not allow them to go and study in Delhi because of this Nirbhaya case. I'm just giving you one example. There are so many girls out there. There are so many parents and family members, right? They will not allow girls to go out in Delhi after evening time when it's dark because of this Nirbhaya case. So it has created a very negative impact. It has created this fear, this case, and this is not just a public clamor. This is my personal opinion again, right? They have damaged this relationship, this social contract, if I can use these words, that that you cannot step out of your house because of this sort of crimes. So we have to set an example. Judiciary has to set an example, and it's not an eye for an eye. This article is saying that this is a sort of revenge that court is trying to take, but it's not vengeance, it's not revenge, it's not court is thirsty of blood. If we don't set examples, and even I would say 2012 till now is again not that good, and still in like last climax portion, we are at very climax of this whole case, but things are going from one place, means every day something new is turning up. So this will create a very negative confidence in potential rapists. We don't want to create a situation where rapists feel that nothing will happen to them. So we have to think about this thing as well. This is my personal opinion. I would love to hear from you guys as well. What do you think about it? Is it because of public clamor or judiciary? Here you find one more line that the evidence on mitigating or the evidence of mitigation that was presented before the court in the form of affidavits, including materials on socio-economic circumstances of the convicts, their family background, and some information on their previous occupation. Now, confirming the death sentence for all, two concurring opinions remarked that the crime was bound to shock the collective conscience, and any punishment lesser than death penalty would shake the confidence of the public. Now here, this article is saying that the decision to itself here on the question of sentence and not send the case back to the trial court for a fresh sentencing hearing took away the right of the convicts to be heard on the issue of sentence by courts at 3 different levels. So this is a thing with which I personally am not happy about, or I don't know. I have looked at it from emotional point of view. I have checked it from logical point of view. I tried to look at it from legal point of view, but then as well I feel like it's not just sentiments, it's about the future as well, and it's also about the justice. It's already delayed, so now it's time that as soon as possible we close this case, we close this chapter forever. So do let me know what you think about it in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And these are some of the news items. Dear friends, of course, you can download the PDF of today's lecture. And please make sure that you go through all these news items. And I will see you later on with daily financial news analysis. Tomorrow is Sunday, so there will be no Hindu news analysis. Now I will meet you on Monday. As far as Hindus are concerned, I will meet you on Monday. Daily financial news analysis coming soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.